Coming up, we're back in the inbox.
You're listening to Double Tap, your daily accessible technology show. Now, here's your hosts, Stephen Scott and Shaun Preece.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Double Tap. I am Stephen Scott, he is Shaun Preece, and Shaun Preece, it is a special day, I believe. Is today the day? Is it today?
The day for what, Stephen Scott?
I think it's,
Happy birthday.
Stop. Oh, no. Stop.
You belong in a zoo.
Any excuse.
With the monkeys and tigers. Why? They look just like you. Happy birthday, Shaun Preece!
Hey!
Happy birthday, Shaun Preece.
Thank you very much. 52 today. Oh, God, I'm depressed.
I know, not looking a day over 75.
Thank you very much. I feel it.
Oh, did you wake up this morning to your breakfast in bed? Did you wake up to, big presents from Mrs. Shed?
No, Mrs. Shed. I'll tell her that. She'll love that name. Mrs. Shed.
Mrs. Shed. That's it. Mr. What are your kids called? That's the question. To Mr. and Mrs. Shed, I give you
the
Tool.
Younger Sheds.
Tool. That's Tool Shed. There you go. A great name for a kid. You didn't have boys. So,
Stop digging a hole, Stephen Scott. No, I didn't. It's far too early yet.
Well, how do you dig a hole? You find the tools in the shed. Oh, dear.
Leave it alone.
I've had too much coffee this morning.
It's going to be a great day. Thank you.
It is going to be a great day, yes. Do you get presents?
No, I don't get it. It's too old for presents. No.
Oh, come on.
What? You know what? At my age, all I want is, can I choose what we have for dinner tonight? That's all I want.
Can it be chicken skewers?
Chicken skewers or my favourite's a roast dinner. You can't beat roast potatoes, roast beef, gravy, sprouts. A Christmas dinner, basically. That's what I'm hoping for.
There you go, Mrs. Shed. That's what you need to get ordered on Grubhub or Just Eat or your app of choice, Uber Eats, whatever it might be. But yeah, listen, have a nice day, my friend. We were hoping today to speak to Amos Miller from Glide. Unfortunately, scheduling conflict got in the way between Amos and I, so we're going to have to put that off till tomorrow. But Amos will be here tomorrow. He promises, and I promise you, we'll bring him to you tomorrow. We get lots of questions in over the weekend, lots of comments on social media about the decision to delay. And we're going to get into that with him. What is most interesting to me, Shaun, is that a lot of the comments, you kind of wonder, right? You wonder what kind of response this kind of story will get. And I have to say, overwhelmingly positive, actually. I'm seeing a lot of positive responses.
Really?
Very, very, I will say this is where, our audience are the best. They're just are the best. It's as simple as that. Because, look, the smart people. And some of the comments I'm getting are like, I'd rather they took their time to make sure this is right than just rush out a product that isn't right. And I think that's just a great response. That's just a smart response.
Yeah, of course it is, yes. But, I mean, that only goes so far, right? But this is the first glitch on the road so far, I would say. And I think a lot of this goes into the relationship that they've taken the time to build with the community, right? Yeah. All the demos, all the hands-on, all the responsiveness. That gives a lot of confidence in, okay, we understand, these things, especially what's happening globally, with the supply chain at the moment, we totally understand. So, yeah, I think it's kind of understandable. I was almost expecting it. I have seen the odd, I knew they would never do it in time.
You'll always get that, yeah.
I've seen, yeah, exactly. And people are allowed to have that opinion, absolutely.
People who are absolutely not running their own businesses and, dealing with factories in China and places like that. These are people who are sitting, I imagine, at home, probably, never, ran a business in their lives, ruminating on international affairs and don't have a clue. Yeah,
it's unprecedented time at the minute, isn't it? When it comes
unprecedented time, supply chain issues. I feel like we're CNBC all of a sudden.
Well, I feel much more mature today for some reason. I'm going to try my
news
best
for you, my friend. Shall we play the jingle again? A reminder. Yeah.
That's enough. Unbelievable. So with no Amos, what are we doing today?
We're going to do emails.
Hey,
emails. We get email.
We get your email every day.
On Shaun's
my birthday.
Here's your mail today.
Oosh!
Oh, a special oosh today.
I'm so excited.
Yeah, my wife hates the oosh, by the way.
Oh, yeah. She did tell that very strongly when we met up.
She did.
She does hate the oosh.
She was very clear on it. I think she would get on really well with Dean in New Zealand. I'm just going to say that.
Yes, she
when it
hates
came
me
to
as
the
well.
Sound effects, I think. Right, let's get to some emails then. Let's kick off with Camille.
In order for the Amazon Echo to play music on the Sonos, the Alexa app needs to have the Sonos device configured. Once that's done, simply ask Lady A to play on the newly configured device. Happy tapping, Camille.
Oh, yeah, this was in relation to playing music from your Echo into your Sonos system. It has basically got to all be set up. I mean, I kind of imagined that would be the case anyway for most of these systems. I think a lot of us buy these things and don't really fully understand how these things all connect, not just to themselves, but to each other. And I've got one of the soundbars from Sonos, and I thought it would be really simple. You just plug it in and you can set up the remote control so that I can just use the remote control for the television or my Apple TV remote even to control the volume. What a nightmare. Absolute nightmare. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work auto-magically, you mean?
Well,
it's
even
a disgrace.
Went through all the settings, I set it up properly, and now what happens is when I push the down button on the volume on the Apple TV, the volume disappears entirely. It's like it fades all the way down. And then when I push the button up, guess what? It goes to the absolute maximum volume.
Yeah,
which is just great. And there's no middle ground. You can't stop it.
You know what? It is a real problem, actually. Being serious for a moment, it is a problem with things like this, trying to sort of get ecosystems to work together because, we're into this stuff, right? We'll sit there, right, I'm going to get this working. We'll go through everything. We'll, Google search it to death. We'll AI it. We'll have a conversation. We'll dig through it. Lots of people won't. And it's funny, the other day I was saying I was shopping on a particularly well-known online store.
Amazon.
And one of the other ones are available. One of the option was with installation. And I said, who would pay extra for the installation? And someone I was with at the time said, well, I would. Absolutely. Yeah, I don't want to deal with that. And you think, yeah, actually, that's fair because it isn't always straightforward.
Well, that's what you're talking about, right? I mean, if we're talking about a new TV that you want hung on the wall or, you're going to hang that yourself?
Yeah, no, I'm not talking about that. Obviously, for DIY things like that, I would get someone in, but it's just the setup more than anything else. It's just getting these things. We just think, we just go here, download an app and do this and do that. But to be honest, with sort of the smart home side of things, it just isn't that easy all the time.
Yeah, well, thank you for the point there, Camille. Let's go to Amanda and reading your CD labels. This is something I was talking about recently.
Hi. You were on about identifying CDs so you could sort them out. Although AI could do this, what about just trying it with Seeing AI with what would now be the document detection mode turned off, which seems to do what the short text channel used to do and just read text underneath it without even having to press the camera button. So you could just leave it in that mode and hover the phone above each CD and hopefully Seeing AI should read it. With AI, I have tried the live video feature in ChatGPT and it seems pretty good. I hope the Gemini one comes to the iOS app. I remember you did mention there was a way to do it on the web, but forgot how you said you do it. I'm wondering something though. Remember last year when there was a Be My Eyes video of this man in London who was outside Buckingham Palace and he was asking if the king was in residence, and then he managed to get a taxi and the live video told him there was a taxi coming and from which side and everything, and it was actually truly live? I'm wondering if you know what happened to all of that and whether Be My Eyes is still going to have a live video option. I'm sure at the time they said it'd be by the end of the year, but then it all went quiet. I do love, though, all the stuff they've done, especially Be My AI, and it was cool they started doing Apple Viz as well. But I'd just be curious what happened to the live video stuff in the end. I enjoy the podcast. Amanda.
Thanks, Amanda. Appreciate that. Now, a couple of episodes ago, and when I say a couple, I mean quite a few episodes ago, we did actually speak to Mike Buckley on this very point, and you can check that out on our website, doubletaponair.com. You can actually see the clip of where Mike talks about this very issue regarding this infamous video. And what he essentially said was, he kind of wishes in a way they'd never released the video because it got obviously huge amounts of positive reception. But the reality is that Be My Eyes are held back by what OpenAI are doing. So if OpenAI don't launch that feature to the mainstream or even to developers to try and use, there's nothing they can do. So, Be My Eyes are not in control of this. Certainly not in control of the AI behind Be My AI. That is driven by OpenAI and ChatGPT. So that's kind of where we're at the moment. So ultimately, it's down to OpenAI to release the functionality, to make it available. It doesn't appear that it's coming yet, but we just don't know. That's the thing. With OpenAI, these companies, especially these newer companies, they don't release on like a yearly schedule. They just drop the announcement. Boom, there it is. And, it's then left for everyone else to catch up and go, wow, this is amazing. We saw from Google last week, the VO3 feature, which has come out. This is something we didn't get much of a chance to chat about with Carrie last week when she was on with us. But this is actually a really interesting thing, because what it's doing is allowing you to use a single text line prompt to say, create a video of a detective questioning a duck about where he was at bath time. That was one I saw at the weekend. And you have this amazing 4K video, with human, not anime, not any of that, actual human faces, not real faces, AI
duck?
Generated. Oh no, the duck. No. The duck was a plastic bath duck, but it was getting questioned by a detective, in the traditional detective garb, asking where he was at bath time, which was kind of, and of course, all the duck could do was squeak in response. But it was incredible, and you think, look how far this has gone so quickly. From a video which came out years ago, which a lot of people may not know about in the blind community, but there was a video, I don't know how many years ago it was, but it was Will Smith, or at least a video, pretending to be Will Smith, eating pasta. And the thing about this video was it was held up as an example of where they were at with AI-generated video at that time. And, the video was terrible. The video was like, he was putting his whole hand was disappearing, his whole arm was disappeared into his mouth along with the spaghetti, and, half of it was getting flung over his shoulder while he was, munching away on it. There was no sound either. So, it was just this horrible kind of terrible video, which was a beginning of something. And zoom forward to 2025, and we had this realistic video now, which, is going to, you can kind of start to see the potential here. You immediately think, Hollywood is finished. I mean, surely. I mean, this, if I could write a film, entirely
I totally understand why they're concentrating on that.
And have it come to life in this way. People are making ads.
Let's concentrate on the vision
People
side
are
of it
using
a little bit more rather than that.
Already?
But of course, the mainstream
starting to use it, and they're saying, look, this is
and as you
generated
said,
entirely by
people
VO3.
in our community might like
it's,
the
it's got
opportunity
testimonials.
to be able to create
there was one
videos,
I saw which was quite funny.
because
It was
the
a
big thing
made-up
with
ad,
VO3
and it was
that it can now
a spray
generate the dialogue as well, the audio,
for
the sound effects, the whatever. Sorry.
No, but it was this video was it was a video for a spray, and the spray was to, if you sprayed this thing on yourself, it would make dogs like you.
Oh yeah.
And so they had this whole thing with like testimonials of people saying, "Oh, before this, dogs never came near me, but now the dogs are jumping all over me." And so it was all kind of done in that traditional kind of infomercial style, but it was entirely generated. So my point here is, we've come a long way. But the reality is we just don't know how far it's all going to go and how quick it's going to go. It's all dependent on the companies to drop these features. So, that's essentially what Mike Buckley said was, look, he probably wishes in a way, well, he does, because he said that to us. He kind of wishes he'd never launched the video in the first place.
Yeah, OpenAI really wanted that video to be made to demonstrate the possibilities of it. But the fact of the matter is, once you show something like that and we can see ourselves and we know how helpful that can be, we want that. Yeah. And if it's not actually ready for, well, it's ready, but it's not actually available to us, then,
that's right.
We get annoyed. So,
and just to say, this is important to say as well, because I remember we had this conversation at the time with Mike and the team at Be My Eyes. I asked the question, I think you maybe asked the question, I can't remember who asked it, but ultimately it was that real?
Yeah.
Was this actual, this wasn't fabricated in any way, this wasn't something that was set up, it wasn't like, this
edited
was real.
Together, yeah.
No, this was real. So, clearly the technology is there. We're at that stage. We're just not seeing it available to organizations like Be My Eyes yet. The good thing is, though, they're in the room. So when it does appear, we're going to get it.
Yeah.
So it's exciting times ahead for sure.
We hope so.
And they're not alone, all right? They're not the only ones in the room. As in, what I mean is that there are other companies now. We're starting to see Google move forward with glasses. Apple, we'll see. But, it's an interesting time. Really is.
Closest we've got right now that you can use, depending on where you are in the world, as ever, is the Meta Ray-Bans with Live AI. In the US, you will have that available right now. In the UK and Europe, we don't, but hopefully it's coming soon. But that's the closest you've got right now to play with.
Let's go to...
Hang on.
Yes.
Sorry, one more thing. Reading CDs.
Using That's right, that was the point of the email.
Yeah.
Sorry, man.
Using Seeing AI. You're absolutely right. Seeing AI is great. That short text, quick real-time OCRing is fantastic. Mm-hmm. The thing with CDs and album art and covers is that not always you can read the text. There may not even be any text on there. I'm thinking of like Pink Floyd Animals, and there's some iconic album covers that actually there's no text to read, or the text is just so abstract that it's unreadable through OCR. AI can recognize that and say, it's almost like an image lookup, and we'll be able to tell you what that is. So that's the difference, really.
Yeah, I think the reason I kind of lent towards using Gemini, or any of them, frankly, certainly Gemini is the one I've been playing with most. It's just, I like the conversational aspect to it.
Yeah, there's nothing to do. You just ask it. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You don't have to press a button.
And it's not relying on OCR, right? It's. I mean, I guess it's able to identify the album. I mean, essentially, it's Google, right? You're Google searching it.
Yeah.
So, in a situation like your album you're talking about, whatever that was, Pink Animals or something?
Pink Floyd Animals, or, whatever it may be. Dark Side of the Moon. There's some there that are just iconic, just images. And it will pick those up. Okay. Fine.
Did Celine Dion do any covers of their music?
I don't.
If that's the case, then My Heart Will Go On. Is that on that album?
Thank you, Amanda. I'm not even engaging. Carry on.
I didn't know that Sarah was a rocker, by the way. We were together at the weekend. We had a lovely weekend, and
depends what you mean by that. Yes.
You get in trouble for that these days.
I know, exactly. She tuned us out when we were in the Uber by listening to Metallica and Def Leppard, and
No, she didn't listen to Metallica and Def Leppard. I also listened to Metallica and Def Leppard.
Can I say, those Meta Ray-Bans have a lot of bleed of audio.
Yeah, I noticed.
Yes, that's very loud.
Concert in your car.
You're welcome. It's
thanks.
good music. Okay.
Okay. Juan's up next.
Hello, Double Tappers. Regarding the Google Nest and technology similar to that, I purchased a couple of years ago the Blink Doorbell from Amazon and also an Echo Show 8. My idea was that when somebody rang the doorbell, I could either open my phone or look at the Echo Show 8, and a video call would be initiated with the Blink camera so that I could either see who was at the door or talk to them. However, this was not always the case. When I opened my phone to the app, there was like a 30-second lag to initiate the live feed, and sometimes even like a minute or 2-minute wait. On the Echo Show 8, you have to yell at it to initiate the live feed, and I thought that would be automatic. If anybody knows how to have the Echo Show 8 automatically display its screen, the video feed, when somebody rings the doorbell, please let me know. I don't have any other smart home devices, and I feel they could be a lot more helpful than they are. Thank you for your show. Sincerely, Juan Manuel Avila.
Thank you, Juan. Appreciate that. Juan Man, there you go.
This is actually a tricky one. I don't know. I think you're absolutely right. When you have a show, for example, and your video doorbell goes off, you want that image to immediately pop up, right? I don't think that's possible to do on the Echo Show devices, but maybe I seem to remember on the Fire TV sticks, and I'm assuming on that basis any Fire TV set, I think it does pop up, or at least there was a setting to allow it to pop up as soon as it detects motion or actually someone presses the doorbell. Now I haven't tried this with the Blink. The last time I tried that I think was on the Ring. So I'm gonna have to throw this out to our listeners to get some more up-to-date information, but we'll look into this. But it should be possible. I'm just not sure if it's possible on the Show devices.
You see, I don't have an Echo Show at home.
No, I don't.
But my dad does. And I'm fairly sure he's told me he's set this up. Because he's told me that, if someone comes to the door now, it automatically will come up on the screen and he doesn't have to, go into the app or ask it to answer the door.
Maybe it's a setting then.
But
maybe it's a setting.
But I don't know, because he may be saying answer the door.
And it comes up.
And it comes up then, you know. I mean, you're absolutely right, though. You want that to come up instantly. That's one of the best benefits about that ecosystem.
Well, we don't care, right? If you're
don't. No,
if you're not looking.
Well, again, no, it depends. Right? If you're low vision
on a nice 65-inch TV.
Well, not even that. I mean, sometimes for a lot of people who are low vision, sometimes the small screen's the best thing. So having it on that screen by the bed, or in the living room next to you, it can be really useful. It gives you a little bit of peace of mind. I mean, it's like those intercom systems that have been around, by the way, for the 70s. You get those video intercom systems. Someone would push the bell outside. The camera would activate on a little screen inside. So, it should be doable. And it may well be. We need to investigate that.
Yes, I'm sure we'll get an answer.
Okay, to Negative Julian.
Hello, Negative Julian here again. Just a couple of things. Firstly, to my very great surprise, my Motorola G54 has just auto-updated to Android 15. I really didn't expect that to happen. But anyway, Stephen, if yours is gathering dust on a shelf, you might want to consider turning it on again for a while. It might be to your advantage. Secondly, I have been listening very carefully to your podcast for March the 26th, in which you discussed the shortcomings of Siri and the near non-existence of Apple Intelligence. After thinking about this very carefully and deeply, my main reaction is... I told you so. I told you so. But that would be very, very childish, wouldn't it? So I mustn't say that. Bye for now.
Thank you, Julian.
I believe that goes back to the discussion that we had with Julian about how you could possibly get the data set needed to run locally on a smartphone, right? Specifically the iPhone. All that data needed to identify an image in particular. How could you get that to squeeze on and run locally? We honestly still don't know.
No, and I mean, it goes beyond that, doesn't it? It goes to the heart of it. And ultimately, I think this is why a lot of us are starting to get a little bit more interested in Android, especially those of us who've been on iPhone for a very long time. We're kind of looking at it. Now, I will tell you a little inside baseball story here. So, I've been raving about the Samsung S25, and it's the first time I've probably had a device that I've got quite as excited about. And then the company get in touch with me this morning and say, "Can we have it back, please?" Really? Thanks, Samsung. Cheers for that. So I'll be Androidless very soon. Well, I won't be Androidless. I'll have my Motorola G54, and I will also have, thanks to Shaun Preece, because at the weekend we did our usual, tech swap that we always do. And all that really happens is I give him stuff back he's given me, and he gives me stuff back I've given him. And I got my Pixel 5 back, so I'm totally up to date with the Pixel range.
You're welcome. When I saw that it wouldn't update to Android 15, I said, I don't want this anymore.
I mean, why can't it? I mean, it seems snappy anyway on Android 14. Oh, what's interesting, though, is I was able to upgrade, I should say, to TalkBack 16, which is kind of cool. This is the benefit of Android, right? You can have an older OS, but you can still get the latest accessibility features. Now, I don't know at which point there becomes a problem between the two. It's like there must be a compatibility thing. There must be at some point.
At some stage, it's relying on the core components of the OS. I honestly don't know. I mean, TalkBack 16 has the Gemini image description and the follow-up mode in the latest update. So you can ask questions on any images you're getting a description of. And that's just in TalkBack 16, right? That runs on Android 14. So
that's right.
Yeah. And I got the Pixel 8 Pro. I got to say, I'm loving it.
Why did I do this? Why did I give you that? And why did I end up with a Pixel 5?
Well, it's smaller. You like the smaller ones, right? You still miss the iPhone Mini. I do. Yeah. I set that up over the weekend, and really nice. Really nice. I liked it. The Gemini, you know what? That Gemini assistant as the main assistant, honestly, when I went back to the iPhone, it was just, oh, okay, they need to do something. Because they've done so much work with Gemini. The last time I tried it on the Pixel 5, it was okay. You can ask all the questions that you usually ask AI, but actually getting it to do anything useful, But now I thought, just open settings. And it said, you need to unlock your phone first. Please unlock your phone. So I did that. And it said, okay, now I'm going to open settings. It just seemed very, I don't know, together. Do you know what I mean? It just seemed in total control. So I was very impressed.
Now, here's a line I never thought I'd ever say.
Oh.
Here's another great thing about Android. I never thought I'd say that line in my life. What is going on? But what I do love is the amount of choice you get in terms of handsets and style. So if you really like having the fingerprint sensor on the back of the device, which I do, Pixel 5 has got that. So I think the Motorola G54 does as well. It's been a while since I've had it in my hand, so I can't remember.
Take it off the shelf.
Maybe on the side, actually. But I really like that. I like the choice you've got. You can have, different sizes of phones. Right now with iPhone, if I want the mini, the only option I've got is to go and buy a refurbished 13 mini. I'm not going to do that. It just doesn't seem to be any point to do that. Not that there's anything wrong with a 13 mini or a 13 range. I mean, to be honest, I know people are still running on the 13, perfectly happy. It works fine.
It's not like you need to upgrade for Apple Intelligence anytime soon.
Well, no, exactly. It doesn't matter. I will say though, something funny happened the other day. I had to call the doctor. And again, because I'm always talking to doctors.
Of course.
And I couldn't remember what I'd put the number in as for the local doctor. So I just said to the phone, I said to Siri, and I think this might be the clue we need here to get Siri to behave. I just said, call the local medical center doctor hospital thing. And it did it. It called the doctor. I was like, that's amazing. So basically, just give it a word salad every time, and it will get it right. Just say, if you call that guy I've met in Manchester a couple of times, I think he lives in a shed, and it'll probably go, oh, you want to call Shaun Preece? No problem.
Yeah, and if you say, call Shaun Preece, it'll say, what? Let me Google that. What
let me Google that.
Who?
Let me tell you what a priest is. Yeah, thanks.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we're loving Android at the minute. What can we say?
Mm-hmm. Listen, we'll get into more of your emails next. This is Double Tap.
This is Double Tap. We'll be right back.
Double Tap thanks Turtleback Cases for supporting this podcast and for making some of the toughest, most ergonomic leather cases for accessible devices. These aren't gimmicks, they're custom-fitted, USA-made carry cases for the gear you depend on, including the Selvas Sense Player, Blind Shell Classic 3, Mantis Q40, Orbit Reader 20, and more. Whether it's for school, work, or travel, Turtleback cases are built to protect your device wherever life takes you. Get 12% off with code DT12 and enjoy worldwide FedEx shipping with full tracking. Browse now at turtlebacklv.com. Hey Shaun, we've got a newsletter.
Letter with news from Double Tap?
Yes, a letter of news, which I think you need to read, my friend, to keep up to date with what is going on.
I know, I do need to find out what's going on, and this is a great way to do it.
Well, it is, because in the newsletter, you're going to get access to all of our stories, all of our coverage of all the big tech news stories, but also all of the conversations, the interviews we've been having, and even looking back at some great archival content as well, because we've been doing this for a little while.
A long time, yes, and even some exclusive content just for the newsletter subscribers.
That's right, and if you're a keen listener to Double Tap on podcast and YouTube, you might even find some exclusive codes in there as well for your shopping delights. It's not just going to be Stephen that's buying things around here, you know. Check out our newsletter. You can subscribe to it right now by going to doubletaponair.com/subscribe.
That's doubletaponair.com/subscribe.
This is Double Tap. Now, back to the show.
Okay, we're back. And look, we're moving on to an email from Pete here, but I just want to say, because I was just saying to Shaun there on the break, it's, I think Rosemary's up next. And you said, I think it's Pete, which is obviously nothing like Rosemary. But there's a reason for that.
Not even close.
There's a reason.
Oh, no, it's Pete.
It is Pete, yes, but there's a reason where the name Rosemary came. I didn't just make it up in my head.
Okay, what? Were you reading Braille for that?
No, I'm trying grade 2. Right, here's Pete.
Hi, Stephen, Shaun, and all Double Tappers. Pete in Robin Hood County. Thank you for all the interesting emails and bits of information and things that you've bought. Just a quick one. If you want to know about shortcuts, the queen of shortcuts is Rosemary Orchard.
Eh?
and she appears on iOS Today Audio for the most part. I've been listening to her for years, and I've always found her very useful. Some people don't like shortcuts, some people do. I have a few, which mostly came from listening to Rosemary Orchard. Follow her on your socials. Take care from Pete in Robin Hood County.
Thank you, Pete. There you go. See, that's why the name got mixed up there.
Okay. You know what, Stephen Scott? That's fine. I'll let you off. Okay, Rosemary Orchard, the queen of Apple shortcuts. I love shortcuts. I don't like the Shortcuts app. It's still very inconsistent when it comes to voiceover. I'm saying that. I haven't actually used it in the last 2 updates, so maybe it's absolutely fine now. But
it's the worst app in the world. At least it was 2 years ago.
No, not even 2 years ago. I'm talking, every update, I tend to try every major update to see if it's improved, and it just hasn't. But it does depend what you want to do with it. If you want to build your own from scratch using the coding blocks, yeah, you're a braver man than I. But yeah, cool. I will check that out.
I just don't get it. I'd love to use it, but I just don't understand what to do with it. It's all this if do this, if that works.
Conditional branching, menu systems, you can do so many amazing things with it. I want to do a simple one where I hold down the action button and it brings up a menu of 3 or 4, seeing AI or whatever, something simple like that. So it's not just the action button for one app, but it brings up basically a shortcut menu. Yeah, I gave up after.
You mean the thing that's on the Apple Watch? Well, the Ultra at least.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, why is that not across the board, right? That makes no sense. Mm-hmm. Why is that just not an option on the phone?
Because it makes so much sense. So no.
Okay, fine. And yes, thank you, Pete. We will definitely check out Rosemary. That sounds very interesting. I love to get tips along the way. It's like that podcast I check out sometimes, Mac Geek Gab, which has been around for a while.
Mac Geek.
It's not easy to say. I'll give you that.
What is it called?
Mac Geek Gab.
Gab. Oh, GAB. Gab.
Yeah. And it's basically just an abundance of tips, and the audience sends stuff in. It's really, really good, actually. Check it out. If you're into your Mac stuff, and they talk about iPhone and everything. Trevor's up next.
Gentlemen, from the rural shores of Lake Huron in Ontario, Canada, Yeti travel mugs have a lid that actually seals properly. I've used mine for nearly 4 years and it still seals. Big and flat-bottomed. And it keeps your cuppa hot long. Thank you for being the most useful source of actually usable information on tech. You make being blind a lot easier and help to keep a sense of humour and, justify the ridiculous frustrations along the road too. Congratulations on 1,000 episodes. Here's to 5,000 more and beyond.
Oof.
Later on, Trevor.
Thanks, Trevor. We'll do our best.
Thanks, Trev. That's lovely. Thank you. Well, we'll make it eventually. Big and flat-bottomed, Stephen's Tinder
That's
profile.
My Tinder profile right there.
Yeti. Okay. I've heard of Yeti. Very popular, very trendy.
Oh.
Aren't they very expensive?
Oh, probably, yeah.
Don't say, probably.
That's always a knockoff. I was in a store the other day,
Stop
right?
it. No, wait.
And honestly, Stanley, right? Stanley's the one that everyone's buying today.
Still not listening to me.
Birthday. Yeah, that's going to make a difference on you. I'm not Mrs. Shed, And I think Mrs. Shed is going to treat you the way I'm treating you. So don't worry about it. Just get used to it. But yeah, I was in a shop the other day, and I was asking about. I bought one of those Stanley cups. It's like you get these things now. I don't know if this is the case around the world.
Isn't that the hockey?
I thought that as well, yeah. But it's also there's a mug you can buy. It's all those travel mugs. Everyone seems to be carrying them around. They're absolutely oversized mugs with a big straw sticking out of them.
Yes.
And
I hate them.
I don't mind them, except you have to be careful with the straw. So the one I bought has a folding-in straw. You kind of pop out the straw, and then you can drink from it. Anyway, that's irrelevant. The point is I lost the straw. That's the problem, right? I lost the straw, it fell out, and I've no idea where it's gone. So I thought, right, that's it. I need to buy a new one. But I thought, I'm not buying a new one because it was like 40 quid or something. It was a lot of money. So I thought, I'm not buying a straw. So anyway, I was in a store, which shall remain nameless. But let's just say, some of these stores these days take a bit of a liberty when it comes to copyright, if I'm honest. Because this thing was exactly the same. And instead of selling it for £40, they were selling it for £3. I'm like, it's the same thing. It's a mug.
Beautiful.
So, I mean, you'd love it. You would love that store.
Yes, I'm sure I would. I do hate those mugs, though, because my daughters use those all the time, and I'm forever just knocking them over. They're really big, really tall, with straws hanging out of them, and I'm forever knocking them over.
It's got a really small base. That's the problem. It's a really small base, so it just falls over.
Yeah, absolutely. But the Yeti, I know people have been talking about and buying those for a while, and they are meant to be very good, but as far as I know, they're quite expensive as well. But hey, maybe you get what you pays for, Stephen Scott.
I think yous do.
Yes.
But and listen, thank you for your very kind comments on the show, Trevor. We really appreciate it. Just a quick note to say, this week, if you want to, you can go to doubletaponair.com/subscribe. You will want to do that if you like Double Tap, and I know some of you have got opinions, but on average, if you like it, you could subscribe to our new newsletter. It's not easy to say. New newsletter, which kicks off in June, and it comes. What? Sorry, the only reason I stopped there was because I know you're going to pick me up and say June. So all I can hear is you saying June to me in my own terrible accent.
No, I was just thinking, wow, that's really, really close. I'm slightly worried.
Well, because you get nothing to do with it. You don't have to worry about it.
Oh, that's good then. Okay, good.
Happy birthday, Shaun.
Yes, thank you.
Business as usual. You won't even know the newsletter shows up until it turns up in your inbox, and you won't even read it when it does. So, let's not even pretend to people that you're going to get involved in this thing.
But anyway, the
point is we do have something extra special as part of the newsletter, and that is an extra exclusive Double Tap episode that you can only get on the newsletter. And I'm going to tell you something. This is going to be every week.
What?
Oh yeah, I need to tell you about that because you need to turn up. But each week we're going to add an extra episode. We're going to have a feed, basically, a private feed, which you can't search for. You can't get by searching around. You've got to get it from us directly. Oh. And we'll have all the details on how you can put that into your own device and whichever device you want, whether it be the Victor Reader Stream or the Sense Player or into your Apple Podcasts app or Overcast or any of that. We'll give you all the details on how you can add the feed, but you only get the feed from us. You're not allowed to share it around, You got to subscribe,
absolutely,
and then you got to keep that. Absolutely, no one's going to copy it and stick it in a group or send it to
their mates.
everyone. I know, exactly, I know. So here's a cool thing you should check out.
But if you could subscribe, it does help us out. It does help us
because basically it keeps Mr. F off our backs.
Exactly. It shows that there is some interest in us. So.
That's right. We're trying to prove that people like this show, you see. I think we've got it, but, yeah, it helps us out. So, check out the details and subscribe at doubletaponair.com/subscribe. Once subscribed, you will get your first email. We're not going to spam you with loads of emails, not going to do that, but you'll get your email with the new Double Tap Digest, which will give you a chance to catch up with the month that's just gone by. And the newsletter will be monthly, but the new podcast will be weekly. And that is called Double Tap Exclusive. You can get that as part of the newsletter subscription, and it's all free of charge. We're not charging you for it. We're going to charge somebody for it, but not you. So, we're definitely going to be getting on the case with that. It starts off on June 2nd or 3rd.
It's the 2nd, I believe.
It's the 2nd. Okay, fine.
I don't know. I haven't a clue.
You're just making that. Yeah, okay. Yes. So it's going to be a day in June. You can tell I'm not involved in the pushing the button to make this thing work. But yeah, basically it'll all kick off, and that feed will have a glorious episode. And there's a couple of special things about that episode, Shaun Preece. I think we can allow people behind the curtain a little bit here to say that we're going to have some special guests with us talking about WWDC, Apple's big event in June, of course. We're going to be previewing that, looking ahead to what's coming. And let's be brutally honest, we're going to talk about a lot of other stuff as well, because we kind of start talking about WWDC and it goes off on one. But yeah, an extra episode there for you to enjoy. But the special thing for me about this episode is it's the first time Shaun and I have actually used Reaper, this audio editor we've been telling you about for so long. We finally got our heads around it, and it felt like we did it in like 2 days.
Yeah, which actually sounds like quite a long time, but for a changeover to new software, we were proud of ourselves, right?
I was actually quite proud of myself. I figured this out with you, and a huge help from friends like Garth and Michael and many others out there who've been. And I've got to say, Scott Chesworth, I want to give a nod to him, because he has an amazing tutorial set called Reaper Made Easy. Now, I don't know if you have to pay for this or how it works. Sean will tell you, because he just gave me the file.
Free.
So I don't know if
it's
you ripped it off the
free.
internet or what you did. It's free, is it?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you got in trouble.
No. Yeah, thanks, Stephen. Yeah, check with me first. Yeah, no.
Sean did it.
ReaperMadeEasy.com. If you go there, it's sponsored content, and it's absolutely amazing. It really, really helped. There's a whole series there of sessions that they've recorded. Absolutely fantastic. There's also is it Reaper Without Peepers group as well, to like a list you can join. Really helpful. But yeah, it's like anyone else, that changing over, that fear of, I've got to learn this all again. Absolutely, that was there, and it's took us a long time. But yeah, I feel quite comfortable with it at the minute. There's still a lot more I need to learn, though.
Well, yeah, there always is, But I mean, I think back to my radio days, and I learned the basics of Adobe Audition back in the day when I could see better to use it. And then when I was losing vision, I managed to cobble together some keyboard shortcuts to make it work, and then that became even less accessible when Adobe really took it on and redeveloped it. It just became entirely inaccessible, and that's when I had to learn Audacity at that point. And
that's right. Yeah.
That was a struggle then. And so, because again, it's just a totally different, everything's named differently or laid out differently, and they're all kind of similar, but there's differences between them. And now moving on to Reaper, which just feels like an absolute beast of a piece of software.
Yes.
You can obviously go into it in great detail. It's great for musicians. You can even video edit on it. That's the bit I'm really interested in, because I'm getting a lot of questions at the minute from people. I know you've been asking a lot of questions to me about how to edit video. And the truth of the matter is, we don't edit much in terms of video here at Double Tap, because essentially it's Shaun and I on screen, and that's kind of it, right? That's all we have. We don't really do any major video production. So, I keep it quite simple for that reason. But what is key for me is to be able to edit the video ideally, or at least to go in and edit more video and do more video production. And Final Cut's good, but it's an expensive piece of software. Talking $300, to buy, so it's not cheap, and it's not. I mean, it's accessible, but you need a lot of time, and there's not a lot of resources out there to actually learn it. Whereas Reaper has tons of resources, and I mentioned Scott Chesworth's Reaper Made Easy course is one example, but there are many others out there, and there's loads of groups and people you can go to, and lots of us just dipping our toes. So the next thing will be for me is to dip into the whole video side of things, but it's very, very exciting. And actually, do you know what? I'm going to say it. I'm proud of myself for learning.
Well done, you, sir. You did a great job. And, it's funny because once you get a little taste for it, and we should say as well, it's not just Scott behind the session and Reaper Made Easy. There's Jen, there's Derek Lane, there's Justin. There's so many people behind it. They do a great job, all of them. But as soon as you listen to a few, you think, oh, that sounds so cool. I want to try it. And we were sort of almost skipping to the computers. Let's try this out. And
at 5 a.m, yes.
Yeah. But
hey, stop doing that.
We got there. Hopefully we can keep going.
It's like I had to go out on Friday, and I was like, do I have to go out? I want to do this.
I want to keep trying.
Okay.
Anyway, newsletter coming soon. Please subscribe. doubletaponair.com/subscribe.
If you like nonsense and you want more of it, then we can fill up your ears with goodness.
Oof, don't like that.
And look,
if
you haven't, I know a couple of you have had issues getting the subscription thing going. I don't know why that would be, but if you have had issues, just email us and we'll get you on the list. So don't worry, we'll make sure it's all doable for you. So just email us feedback@doubletaponair.com if you're having any issues subscribing. And if you don't even have access to a computer to do it, and you want to just call in on our usual call-in number and say, hey, look, I'd love to get access to this audio, we will make sure you get access to it. So don't worry about it. If you're thinking, but I can't do this online, don't worry, because we've got you covered here at Double Tap, and we'll look after you. So, if you want access to the audio, we'll get it to you, okay? We're not putting it behind a paywall. We're just keeping it private because ultimately it allows us to monetize it in other ways, let's just say. And essentially we want to do what a lot of other companies are doing these days, which is say to business and to organizations, hey, look, why not chip in and help out the blind community here, rather than asking you for the money? Because I know lots of you might say I can pay, and that's nice, but I don't know. There's lots of people who can't, and that's what puts me off the idea of asking people who are not working and all the rest.
If there's another way that still makes it free to the community, then that's what we're going to look into first.
And plus, we're just having a great time, so kind of all works out. Yeah. Right, up next, Chanelle's here with an app recommendation.
Hello, Double Tappers. In response to your request for app recommendations, may I suggest You Need a Budget, YNAB. It's the most accessible budgeting app that I've found, by far. The company is also responsive to accessibility feedback. The app is available on Android and iOS. In addition, there is a website. The website has some great features not available on the mobile device. Note, I haven't fully explored the website, but the iOS app is 100% accessible with VoiceOver. YNAB offers a free month trial, and annually it runs to $110. Students can also receive a year free. There are plenty of training resources to familiarise yourself with the app, YouTube videos, a podcast, and they have some excellent customer support. I first used them prior to experiencing a vision loss, and afterward I contacted them about their accessibility, and they did, over time, make it accessible. I count that as a win. If others in the blind community use it, would love to know their thoughts. Thank you, Laura, for reading this, and keep up the great work, all. P.S. Glad the furry one is better. Chanelle in Alexandria, Virginia.
Well, that dates it a little bit there, Chanelle, obviously. But yes, our dogs are much better. I hope your dog is better too.
Thank you. That's nice.
How's Fletcher doing? He's all right now, isn't he?
Yeah, I had a bit of a clean up to do this morning, but hey, I'm looking at it as a birthday present. So can I say, just quickly off topic a little bit, I used Ira to find where my dog had been sick this morning, and they were amazing, absolutely fantastic. I know it's a bit gross and disgusting, but you know what? I needed to find it. I didn't want to step in anything, so they were great. Didn't even flinch at all. Amazing.
Do you know, it's funny you say that, because so this morning I had to go out and what was it Troy called it? Garden bombs.
Yes.
Find the garden bombs. And I am really hesitant about using Ira for that. But after talking to Troy about it and hearing him say, look, this is something that our agents deal with and they are absolutely fine with. Yep. And you know, I think it's about, it's the conversation should be like any conversation you have, right? Be upfront first and say, look, here's what I want to do. Are you okay with that? It's just considerate, you know, to say, look, are you, because like Troy said, look, if an agent really doesn't want to do it, they'll hand you to another agent and they'll do it.
Absolutely.
And
some people are squeamish, right?
Yeah,
and say,
totally.
no, honestly, I couldn't do that, but let me get you someone who can. But yeah, absolutely.
Kind of gave me a bit more confidence to use it.
So
for
did
that.
you use Ira to clean up?
It turned out, actually, just as I was about to, my neighbour came in because we were checking some other things, and they actually checked for me, which was kind of nice. Yeah,
whenever we want to try technology,
I know, it's always the same. Do you know what? Right, I want to mention this because this happened yesterday, and I want to get your take on this.
Okay.
So we had to go into town, going to a wedding at the weekend, and we're really looking forward to it. And it's not ours, which I think is why my wife's looking forward to it. And we were we'd gone into the store to buy me a suit. And so we decided to get a taxi in because the weather was atrocious yesterday. So we said, right, we'll jump a taxi into town. It'll get us in nice and quick, and we don't have to, you know, from where she had to go for what she needed and where I had to go was quite a bit of a distance. So we didn't want to be walking all around town soaking wet. So we jumped a taxi, and the driver didn't speak much, didn't say a lot. He just, hi, how are you? The usual, you know, the hi, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere, as we're driving along the motorway, he comes out with, are you just partially sighted then?
Yes, that's the question.
Now,
yes.
We get this all the time, right? This is, and what gets me is every single person thinks that it's the only time anyone's ever asked this question.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just the fact that it came out of actually nowhere. Like, we weren't having a conversation. We weren't engaging
happily
in the
ignoring
day.
each other.
Yeah, just sitting there. You know, the music was on. Terrible music taste he had, by the way. And you know, we were sitting there, and it was just the out of nowhere part of it, right? It just and there was a moment where various thoughts ran through my mind before I didn't even answer. My wife actually spoke up, and she said, "Yes, we are." Okay. And his follow up to that was, "Do you read Braille?" So immediately my thoughts, I'm so suspicious, right? I'm thinking he's seen something online about Braille or something, and this is where this has come from.
Okay.
And my wife said, no, I do a little. I do read Braille, but not as much as, not every day, but my husband does. And so she threw me under the bus. And so he says to me, how do you read that? How do you read the bumps? And we went through all this, that's the most amazing thing. And I don't know, you must have super senses and yeah, whatever. And to be honest, I just wasn't in the mood for it, right? I just wasn't in the mood. I was going into town.
Stephen Scott?
I was going into town to buy a suit, which means I need to, talk to people. And I just...
Which means you were sulking. I know exactly the mood you were in.
You know exactly, right? I just wasn't in the mood. I could not be bothered. Don't want to
buy a suit.
And so the last conversation I want to have is this. This is just not the moment. No, I wasn't rude at all. I just sat silent. I just decided to go.
That is kind of rude, being silent, if he's asking you questions.
And I don't, and I'd much rather do that than actually what I wanted to do, which was say, do you know what? I really don't want to have this conversation.
Well, arguably that's a nicer thing to do, to say.
Is it though? I think that would create an atmosphere, because I know what happens. You've got to think 10 steps ahead, right? I always think 10 steps ahead. I'm thinking, if I say to him, I don't want to have this conversation, I'm going to have an endless conversation of, I didn't mean anything by it, and I was only asking, and I didn't mean that, and don't think I'll be rude. And then it's just like, do you know what? I'm bored now. And I'm on a motorway, so I can't get out.
All right, okay.
So I decided to go silent, and he went quiet, and that was fine. But I just thought, what a weird thing. But the thing that came to mind was the word just in there.
Just when?
Are you just partially sighted?
Oh.
And that stuck out a little bit as well, because I thought, the thinking back on, you think of all the things you would have said, and I felt like saying, yeah, I'm just partially sighted, haven't fully qualified as blind yet. I'm working up to it.
That may be the people's hesitancy on using the B word, right? They don't want to say blind sometimes because it's a dirty word, right? So are you just partially sighted or ... I suppose. I'm looking at it the optimistic way, but
you fool! Just because it's your birthday.
Yes.
Sorry about that.
That's the question. It's the question. It's like we asked all taxi drivers, "Have you been busy?"
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Every blind person get asked, or how'd you deal with that? I couldn't do that. Or what are you? How much can you see? Come on, leave it alone.
You kind of want to ask, like, okay, so when were you last at the doctor? What was your medical?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Tell me your medical history.
It seems a bit personal, but people seem quite happy to. And sometimes we're quite happy to answer it as well. So it works.
I just want to know people's thoughts on the way it was just announced. That's the bit that kind of... It wasn't the fact that it was
response,
asked.
his sulky silence response.
People know me well enough to know that is a standard. And most of the time, in fairness, I'm quite happy to talk.
Yeah,
but I just wasn't in the mood that day.
Yeah.
But
no, I know. I'm exactly the same. Sometimes you just
can't be bothered.
Yeah, you got short patience when it comes to that. Absolutely. We should answer this email, by the way, and say thank you so much, Chanelle, for the recommendation of you need a budget, totally accessible budget. I'm assuming it's a budgeting app going off the name. I saw a lot of people asking for this just the other week on social media. I've never used one, so I don't know. Stephen, maybe maybe you could actually, you might need something like this, the amount of stuff you buy. So
used to buy.
I'm going to check this out. That's a very cool recommendation. Thank you.
Yeah, it is a great recommendation. And I want to say this is where you guys are just amazing, because you can bring these this is exactly why I wanted to do sort of app of the week type things, because you'll come to us with ideas and apps that we would never have used.
Nope.
So, this is great that we can get a chance to talk about this. Although we've not actually talked about it.
No, yeah, we totally ignored it for 5 minutes. Sorry about that, but still a great recommendation.
You can't improve on perfection, right?
No, exactly.
Have we got time for more? I think we might. Let's... what's this one? Oh, yeah, let's go for this one. This is good. You'll like this one. This is from David. Sorry. I'm reading these like You're reading these like the first time I've heard them. Okay, this is David.
Greetings. In listening to the April 23rd programme, I was concerned to hear that Shaun has not received instruction in cane travel. I therefore searched and found a classic little book that should be of some assistance. It is a down and dirty introduction to basic skills, and it is free from the NFB website. Spend a few hours with the text and it will get you sorted properly. It is the most helpful O&M training material I have ever read, and I have studied some college textbooks on the subject. If you go to nfb.org, search for care and feeding and it will come up. I listen to the show most days and often even enjoy it. It is a tech show, really. From David Bell in East Tennessee, USA.
Thank you, David.
I'm sorry, care and feeding of what? Of your
Feed your
cane?
Yeah. You got to feed it. I feed mine balls. That's why I feed it.
Right, that's enough. Let's quickly move
Or
on.
mushrooms.
I am going to check that out.
You get where I'm going with this?
But yes, I do.
Thank you.
I'm going to check.
Don't be rude.
That.
It's not just because it's your birthday. Don't get away with it.
Take me off camera immediately. I'm going to check that out. Thank you so much. That's a great little tip. Thank you.
Oh, very good. Of Canes.
A great little tip.
Hey,
Oh, God, that's so hilarious.
Honestly, if you knew you were funny, you'd be hilarious.
I can feel myself going red now.
Okay, let's go finally to Eleanor.
Hi guys, it's Eleanor.
Hey!
On the subject of interacting with the sighted public.
Oof.
A few years ago, my guide dog and I were going to a shop we'd never been to before on our own, although we had gone over the route with a sighted friend. To make sure that I was on the right track, I decided to check up with the next person I met. The man I spoke to was very willing to help, but then I discovered from the location of his voice that he was bending down and giving directions to the dog. Has this happened to anyone else out there in Double Tap Land? I've just recovered from a cold, which is why I haven't been able to get in touch lately.
Oh.
But both Lady A and Lady G still understood my croaky voice. Just saying, Siri. Bye.
Yeah. One in
like
the eye
that.
for Siri there. Well, quite right. Listen, we're short of time, but I will want to say, 19 years old, a friend of mine and I, both with guide dogs, me with mine, she with hers, and we were both standing on the corner of a Glasgow street, and we asked someone for directions. They did exactly the same thing, Eleanor. Told the dog the instructions and then stood up and said, okay, on your way now.
I thought that was an urban myth.
No, it really happens. Really, really does. Listen, we're out of time
Unbelievable.
for today. Amos, hopefully with us tomorrow from Glidance. We'll join him then. And Shaun, happy birthday, my friend, and have a nice day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.